This content is personal experience, not medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional. Guest views are their own.
So, yes, I am an MD. I am kind of like in the allopathic system. But in this presentation, I want to give you a little bit of my background, why I'm a vegan, first of all, then why I ate a raw vegan diet exclusively for 5 years, and why, which is the most important thing that I want you to pay more attention, is why I'm no longer exclusive raw vegan eater for the purposes of increasing my protein. Protein is a triggering word in the vegan community, and I hope after this presentation you change your mind a little bit, because what I'm gonna tell you here took me years to understand, and that's why I changed my mind. So yeah, the title of the presentation is A Fresh Perspective on Protein, Muscle, and Strength for Long-Term Vegan Vitality, okay? Along the way, please skip the questions at the end so we can...
They're saying, could you step aside just so they can see the, or yes, step aside.
That's perfect?
Thank you so much, guys.
Yes, so when I move to change the slide, I'm gonna probably move a little bit, so.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
No, because the cable doesn't reach. Okay, so this lecture is not about, it's not a lecture, it's a talk, right? But again, this is not about bashing the high carb diet. This is not an anti-carb diet. This is not an anti-fruit talk. This is not an anti-vegan talk. This is not a anti-raw vegan talk. This is not a high protein manifesto. And most importantly, this is not an ultimate dietary guideline for everyone. This is for people who want to preserve muscle mass along the way until they get older, and bone density as well, and also the preservation of soft tissue that basically gives us shape, right? So protein is not just in the muscle, it's in the bones, it's in the ligaments, it's in the tendons, it's in our teeth, it's in our discs, in between the vertebral bodies. Proteins are enzymes, so 60% of our body composition is protein. So just to give you a raw estimate. So I just want to give you my background so you kind of understand the way I think and why I do things and why I preach the things that I preach right now. But for that, you need to understand that before 2006, I don't know if it's clear here, but it's kind of blurry. But basically, it's 2006. I was an omnivore, and I was a medical student. And I was, most of you know that medical students don't learn anything about nutrition, and that's true. It is until recently that some medical schools started incorporating some nutrition courses in the curriculum, but not all of them. So I was not the exception. I was not taught nutrition. Then in 2006 to 2007, in Mexico, we have something called Internship, which is a mandatory year living in a hospital, and you do like long night shifts, like 48 hours, and then you rest, and then 48 hours non-sleep or a little bit of sleep, and then rest. So in order to survive that year, I had to eat midnight, just to keep running, and I gained a lot of weight. I was not obese, but I was in the overweight category. So there is ranges in weight, like underweight, normal weight, overweight, and obese, and morbidly obese. So I was overweight, slightly. So that year was very crucial for me to finally understand that what we eat really matters in terms of how the body is composed. So when I finished my internship, I asked a colleague, like, hey, I want to lose all this weight, what do I do? And this is the first introduction that I had to diet, the Atkins diet. And for those of you who don't know, Atkins is similar to the carnivore diet, because 3 times a day I was eating animal products. So that made me lose weight. Why? Because a carnivore diet, a keto diet, a raw vegan diet, a fruitarian diet, all of those diets are restrictive diets. I'm not saying raw vegan, fruitarian, well-planned are deficient or anything like that. I'm just saying that people who go into extremes tend to eat less, and therefore you lose weight. So that's why I'm explaining to you. The Atkins diet, similar to the carnivore diet, helped me to lose the weight. I was not eating carbs at all, and I didn't feel great. Of course, I felt better because I lost the excess weight, but I didn't have energy, and you know that to have energy, you need your carbs, right? And I was missing my fruit, and I was missing, I'm from Mexico, so in my backyard we have papayas, mangoes, and I was missing on that because I wanted to lose the weight. So that sparked my interest to say, okay, there should be a better way, more sustainable, to give me energy and not gaining weight. And I was relying on coffee just to have energy. So you know how those diets work. So in these 3 years, from 2009 to 2012, I came across vegetarianism, and that kind of resonated with me at the time. So I was vegetarian for 3 years, but I was heavy on dairy. I relied on cheese, milk, yogurt, and things like that. I was eating normal vegan diet, cooked vegan diet, along with raw fruits and vegetables. But the weight remained okay. I was in the normal weight. I was actually able to keep my optimal weight after losing the weight with the Atkins diet. Maybe if I had embraced raw vegan here, I would have the same results, right? But I didn't know about it. So it was until 2012 that I started watching YouTube videos about all these raw vegan influencers that proliferated around those years. And it was in the back of my mind. And I said, you know what, these people clear their skin. These people actually look very nice. They're very athletic. They're full of energy. And they have a different aura. So I was like, something's going on there. And as I said, I just keep it in the back of my mind until I watch a documentary. So when you are watching content on YouTube, there are suggestions. So Earthlings came as a suggestion, and I watched it. It was the night of November 30, I remember vividly because it made me cry. The whole exploitation of animals, if you haven't watched that movie, it's very cruel, but it's behind the scenes of what's going on in the slaughterhouses and all of that. So I became vegan overnight. I didn't know what I wanted to do because I was like, I kind of keep supporting the dairy industry. And I did it wrong the first months, but because I'm an inquisitive person and I'm just very curious, I kind of find a way to live as a vegan, started with supplementation and all of that. So that was in 2013, and as I said, I vividly remember November 30, so this year, in a few months, actually a couple of months, I'm gonna be a 12-year vegan. So the first half of that vegan journey, I was eating mostly cooked food, and then the second half, it was mostly raw. And I noticed gradually that the more raw I became, the better I felt. And it was until I said enough. I like to make commitments, and New Year resolutions is a good day to start a new life. So in January 2018, I decided to go fully raw vegan, and I lived as a fully raw vegan for 5 years. I would lie if I said, fully raw, probably 99%. Sometimes maybe you go out and there is like hummus, and you spread a little bit in your salad or things like that. So those are the occasions where I'm not fully raw, but for the most part I was committed. And Raw Vegan Doctor came about. So I started producing content on social media because I was, and I'm still super excited about this lifestyle, promoting, and I want you to pay attention to this part, high carb, low fat, low protein, right? Because if you understand nutrition a little bit, if you preach fruitarianism, there's no way that a fruitarian diet is gonna give you a high fat percentage. There's no way. There's no way that a fruitarian diet is gonna give you a high protein percentage, but it's gonna give you a high carb percentage, which is great. This is what most vegan doctors recommend. When I talk about vegan doctors, I'm not talking about raw vegan educators. I'm talking about medical doctors who have studied the China study, have followed the Ornish protocols, things like that. So medical doctors that actually concluded that a plant-rich diet with high carbs, high fiber, high in fruit and vegetables is very, very ideal for human health. So this notion, right? High carb, low fat, low protein is preached in all circles in the vegans and raw vegan communities. And I believe that, and I preach that, and I taught that way. So what happened? Actually, I wanted to mention that since I became aware that diet affects our body, I started also exercising. So from 2008 all the way to 2018, I was an avid runner. I was running probably every day 5K. I was running maybe 8 to 10K every weekend. I run several half marathons. I run 2 marathons. I almost qualified for Boston Marathon. If you don't know the qualifiers, it's very strict. I almost made it. I was just 2 minutes to reach that level, but anyways, I was an avid runner. I was eating probably 2,500 to 3,000 calories, but I was burning those because I run, right? Otherwise, for my size, I'm small, so 3,000 calories for this body is gonna make me gain weight, right? Because calories matter. So running really helped me to stay athletic. So it was in 2023 that I decided to look at myself honestly in the mirror, and I thought, you know what, I'm getting this shape of the so-called skinny fat shape, which is that you're slim, you're thin, but you don't have any tone, you don't have muscle mass. You are just getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. Your bones started to show up. The fat probably is not noticeable, but you don't have muscle to give you structure and shape. So I was like, you know what, resistance training is important. So I started to go to the gym. I hired a trainer to learn the basic exercises. I started to see more shape in my body. But what happened, that I was heavily training at the gym, and I noticed that my hair started falling and thinning. I was reluctant to embrace the recommendations that if you're training, you need to increase your protein. Why? Because I believed and I preached this approach for years, right? I've been listening to that approach for years, and then I lived that way for years, and I was running with that percentage of macros for years. Running doesn't require a lot of strength. Running requires just adaptability of the body, getting faster, and you don't probably need a lot of muscle mass in your legs, quite the contrary. If you see runners, marathon runners, they're very slim. They're toned, but very, very slim. They have muscles in their legs, but in the trunk, they're very slim. So you need to be slim to be fast, right? So I was like, what's going on with my hair? And then it was worse and worse. I said, oh, maybe it's a vitamin, maybe it's my shampoo. Did I change the product? Maybe I'm using the flat iron a lot. So it was what was happening to me, and also learning more about exercises, and then learning from all these omnivore doctors that you see online. I don't know if you've seen popping up on your feed, Gabrielle Lyon, which is like a muscle-centric lady. She's a medical doctor, and she's always bashing vegans. She was, I think, vegetarian, and now she has animosity towards veganism, and she throws misinformation as well, but she promotes a heavy protein diet. But she's very ripped, she's very athletic. There are other omnivore doctors that also promote resistance training, but also promote heavy animal consumption. So it was, the combination of what was happening to my body, and also listening to other sources of information, because for all these years I was in the plant-based bubble, right? But that made me question, because it is until something happens to you that you question if you are doing something wrong, right? So I had to open my perspective, and the moment I started supplementing with protein, and when I say protein, I'm saying vegan protein, right? I increased my protein because I was training hard. That's why in some of the first slides that I mentioned, this talk is not a recommendation for everybody. It's for the people who want to stay fit, preserve their muscle mass as they age, and preserve their bone density and athleticism and functionality. And I think this is crucial for all of us if we want to age gracefully. Aging gracefully is not just keeping your skin without wrinkles, but it helps because if you don't lose collagen at a faster rate, the wrinkles are not so noticeable. So collagen is another form of protein. Collagen, there are different types of collagen. Collagen in the bones has a different name. There's collagen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, several. So I think I've seen my change. Not only my muscle gains, not only my physical performance at the gym, not only the stopping of my hair loss, but also my skin has changed. And if you know me from social media, probably you've noticed, I don't know, I feel like it's helping. And also I was aware about other terms like sarcopenia, osteoporosis prevention, body composition and body recomposition. So I want to explain briefly to you what it means. Also, I understood that as a woman, our bodies function very differently than men. So you have seen probably on social media people who are very convinced that let's say fruitarian diet, right? Oh, I'm a fruitarian and look at my muscles, right? But it's usually a guy in their 30s and 40s. You never see a woman in her 70s that is a long-term raw vegan, super muscular. Have you seen that? Super athletic. Most of raw vegans that I see are, slim, and being in an optimal weight helps you to avoid disease for sure. But it's not helping you, especially if you don't exercise with resistance training, it's not helping you with your bone density, and it's not helping you to retain muscle that is super important as we age for functionality. I don't know you, but when I reach 80, 90 years old, I want to be able to go to the parking lot at Kroger's or whatever grocery store you go and carry my own bags. I want to be able to go to the restroom and not having to depend on somebody that helps me stand up. I want to be able to keep exercising. There's a lot of accounts on Instagram that are of people that are past 70 that are actually exercising. I saw a lady that is 84, and she does more pull-ups than me. I can only do strict pull-ups, not assisted. I can only do 4, but she does 10 or 12. That's a sign of a lot of strength. Obviously, it's not the goal for everybody, but I think that certain level of athleticism, certain level of procurement of muscle mass and bone density is essential for keeping your functions as we age. So this is the summary of the 3 realizations that make me switch from fully raw vegan, high carb, low protein, low fat, to high raw vegan, high carb. I still eat a high carb diet. I still eat probably 60% to 75% raw vegan food, fruits and vegetables. But what changed, I've incorporated cooked food to increase my protein intake. If you don't know about nutrition a little bit, or if you are not curious about tracking what you eat, you're not gonna believe me when I tell you that certain sources of plant-based protein have more protein than others, right? So for example, a block of tofu has maybe 20 grams of protein, and in order to reach those 20 grams of protein from bananas, I need to eat 20 bananas, because one banana has one gram of protein. So if you're curious about what you are eating and how many grams of protein you are consuming, I invite you to track yourself so you know if you are not under eating. I'm gonna talk to you about the recommendations very soon. But here, I want to summarize the 3 realizations that made me make that shift. 1, in addition to my hair loss problem that triggered me investigating more, vegans with a low body mass index have an increased risk of bone problems, meaning osteopenia, which is the step before osteoporosis, and osteoporosis makes you more propense to fractures. So that's something that was discovered at the Oxford study. The Oxford study was done at the University of Oxford in England, and they studied long-term vegans in the UK, and they found that those with body mass index below 18 had more propensity to fractures. There's a lot of criticism to this study because the authors kind of grouped together low body mass index, those vegans who were 20, and those vegans who were 18 in body mass index. And it's not the same. 20 is good, 18 is underweight. So, but regardless, that tells us that a very low body mass index, very low weight, makes you, gives you predisposition to fractures, osteoporosis, as you get older. Sarcopenia after 40 years old. Sarco means skeletal muscle, penia is lacking. So sarcopenia happens to all of us, especially women, because we transition in the perimenopause, postmenopause, and the hormones change, and that really accelerates the loss of muscle mass if you don't exercise. Okay, again, if you don't exercise. And that's inevitable. That's something that is going to happen to all of us if we don't procure it. And the rate of muscle loss accelerates as we get older. Then the third realization that made me make the shift is that the current RDA, which is the recommended dietary allowance for protein, is not adjusted for people who want to gain muscle mass. I don't know if you know vegans that are online, like Nimai Delgado, his wife Bianca Taylor, and all of these guys that are in the vegan circle and they're into bodybuilding and all of that, those eat massive amount of proteins, but just because they do that, that doesn't mean that they're gonna get sick when they get, older. Most of us have this conception, right? Oh, excess protein, kidney failure. Oh, excess protein overloads your, adrenal fatigue. All of these things that we try to explain when we increase protein, vegan protein, okay? Vegan protein, meaning soy products, tofu, tempeh, beans, lentils, things like that. So, because I'm going to explain about belief systems, but those are the three revelations. And I'm going to basically break down each of them. Low body mass index. So these two models is Kendall Jenner and Giselle Bündchen. So those are very famous supermodels, and they look amazing for some people, but let me tell you that that's not healthy. That's unsustainable, and in order to achieve that physique, you are under eating, and you probably have a body mass index of minus 80. It's blurred here, but the low weight is below 18 as body mass index. A healthy weight is 18 to 24.5. And then overweight is 24 to 30, and then obese is 30 and beyond. So I'm breaking down for you because it's kind of blurred. Some people say that body mass index is not a reliable measure of your optimal weight, and I agree, because if a person is super muscular, they tend to have body mass index close to the overweight range, but that doesn't mean that they're unhealthy. It's because muscle weighs more than fat. And of course, I'm focusing on women because most of us are attracted to the idea to keeping a low body weight and having a nice physique. That's why so many people are attracted also to the raw vegan lifestyle, because most of the influencers that promote this lifestyle, are very, optimistic or very enthusiastic about showing their bodies and saying, look, raw vegan. And yeah, unfortunately, we women are indoctrinated to believe that only by achieving those standards of beauty, we are worth it. And it's not true, especially if you are underweight and you keep a body mass index that is low, right? So these are pictures of people who are exercising for bodybuilding competitions. So this physique right here is a person with a body mass index of 13.7 as a woman, right? Very little body fat in order for the muscles to show up. Another person who is athletic and with a body mass, this is percentage of body fat. So a body fat of 18% and a body fat of 21% is ideal, right? We shouldn't aim to look like this. It's not sustainable. Even people who compete cannot sustain this physique for more than 2 weeks. When they try to recover, they immediately go and, because they overeat, they probably go all the way here. But if you want to keep a low body fat, but also a good body mass index and good density in your bones and muscles, this is ideal. So don't be scared to show your curves. I'm referring to women because I know our psyche. So yes, that's not unhealthy, that's not overweight. Even this one, which is 26, still okay. So yeah, the other image breaks down the recommended body percentages, body fat percentages, and it's not bad. A little bit of fat here in your belly gives you the reproductive capacity. It's not normal to have a flat stomach 24/7. Obviously, you're not gonna have, like a big belly. You have to worry about that, but that's acceptable. The second revelation that I had about the sarcopenia, as I mentioned to you, after 40 we lose muscle mass if we don't procure it. How do we procure it? By resistance training, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. So you have to lift weights, you have to do calisthenics, anything that involves pushing and pulling the muscle so your bones get stronger and your muscle grows, or at least doesn't deteriorate with time. So as I said, some numbers, right? After 40, adults lose 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade. The loss accelerates after 60 years old, reaching 1 to 2% per year in some individuals. Muscle strength declines faster than mass, about 2 to 3% per year after 60. And by the time we reach 70 to 80, we have lost 25 to 50% of our muscle mass. That's why when you see, people in retirement homes, they cannot open jars, they cannot stand up, they cannot go to the toilet. If you pay attention, the look of an older person, even if they look overweight, or if they have bellies or a big trunk, if you look at their extremities, they're very thin. If you look at their shoulders and arms, they're very thin. So that's sarcopenia. This is a study that shows how exercise with resistance training, doesn't matter the type of exercise, but has to involve a little bit of resistance and weight training. 40-year-old triathlete. This is a magnetic resonance that is cutting basically the femur or the leg of the person. This is the bone here in the center, this white area. This gray area is the muscle mass, and then the fat is the white rim at the periphery. So an athlete that is 40-year-old has a lot of muscle mass and very little subcutaneous fat and very bright bone density. When we get to 74-year-old and we are inactive, this is sarcopenia. You see how the gray area is getting reduced and is being substituted by adipose tissue. So the bone density, also you can see how the brightness of the bone, the femur, is diminished. Probably this patient has also osteopenia or osteoporosis. Compared to the last image that belongs to a 74-year-old triathlete, it looks the same as a 40-year-old, wow. Right? So that was for me like, wow. Sometimes we think that we need to keep exercising, fasting, juicing, monomilling, losing weight. But with every cycle of weight loss, remember, after 40, you're getting this, and that's why you cannot lose weight. Because in order to keep yourself lean, you need the muscle. If you lose weight and you lose weight, your body kind of adapts to a low calorie, and they say, oh, actually, I need to retain more calories. I need to convert everything into fat because this person is depriving me, so I'm gonna, safeguard myself. So that's what happens, and I'm talking to women mostly. So how do you calculate the protein that you need? For the most part, we don't need a lot. If this is the recommended values, recommended by the WHO, by all the academics of nutrition, which is 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight, translated to 0.36 grams per pound, right? It's just half. So if you do a calculation, let's say a person weighs 50 kilos, and if we multiply 50 kilos times 0.8 grams, 8 times 50 is 40, right? Or 0.8 times 50 is 40. So a person that weighs 50 kilos only needs 40 grams of protein. Most of us in the fruitarian raw vegan diet, we can achieve without problems 40 grams of protein. Again, this talk is for me to create in you some awareness that eating 40 grams of protein is very easy on a raw vegan diet, especially if you combine a lot of leafy greens and vegetables as well, and some sprouts. If you incorporate more sprouts and leafy greens, probably you can get 50 grams. But this is not ideal for bodybuilding, because I was doing it, and what happened to me, and I was not gaining any muscle mass. I was at the gym and I was not seeing progress. How do you see progress at the gym? Well, you can lift heavier, you can do more reps, you see your body transforming. So that wasn't happening to me when I was keeping it high carb, low fat, low protein. So I had to increase a little bit, just a little bit. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go high raw vegan for that reason, because I mentioned to you, some sources of protein in the vegan spectrum have more protein when you cook them. So yeah, as I mentioned, fruitarianism gives you 40 grams. Raw vegan combined with vegetables, leafy greens, sprouts can give you up to 60 grams. Do the calculation. I invite you to do the calculation, at least for a day, and you will realize how much you're eating. And a high raw vegan can give you more than 80 grams, and that's what I currently do. So the importance of tracking yourself, there are so many apps for free. You can create an account in Chronometer, MyFitnessPal. There are other apps that are newer, like Fat Secrets, Macros, etc. Pick your favorite. I like chronometer. Third revelation, and I'm gonna finish very, very soon. So, the current recommended dietary allowance is not adjusted for people who want to gain muscle mass. I don't know if all of you know Dr. Garth Davis that wrote the book Proteinaholic. Dr. Garth Davis is a plant-based doctor who is against heavy protein intake. And that's why he wrote a book about the obsession of the Western people worrying about protein, especially the omnivores, right? It's not needed, right? And he's kind of like defending plant-based diets. But then I found, when I was making these discoveries or these realizations in my mind, in 2023, he posted a study on his Instagram saying that, you know what? Very rarely I question my belief systems. And then he mentioned that this study made him question his belief systems about protein, even after he wrote a book about the protein obsession. So basically the study analyzed muscle gains in younger people, and the vegans were eating the recommended value, 0.0 grams of protein per kilo body weight, had issues gaining muscle mass and recovery compared to the ones that ate a little bit more. So that made him questioning, and he said, you know what, it's a single study, but worth analyzing the effects of the current RDA, especially for people who want to gain muscle mass. So why the word protein clashes with the vegan and raw vegan community? Because, as I said at the beginning, we have heard like we don't need protein, we need amino acids, plants have amino acids, you can get everything you want from plants, the medical mafia, the carnivore industry, you know, a lot of things that make us reinforcing our personal preference, right? Our identity. It's very difficult to change your identity. Eating a certain way is like religion sometimes. So you don't want to abandon your religion. You don't want to abandon your identity. You are afraid of gaining weight because raw veganism and limiting your sources of calories has been the only thing that has given you results. We don't believe in science because science has been weaponized and used against humanity sometimes. But science doesn't mean that it's bad, it's just the people who misuse it, right? And then we can go deeper, right? Like, for example, this is a timeline of raw food and the history, and the first influencers, we can trace it back to the 1800s, and then, you know, early 900s, and then we are here, you know, all the raw vegan influencers and educators online. But there's a history to this movement, and along the way, you know, some people are more adepts to, I don't know, and Whitmore, and some people believe more about Gabriel Cousins, and some people go with Dr. Sebi, and some people go to Arnold Ehret. Just keep in mind, I want you to expand your perspective, like, what were the problems that these people were having in this particular decade of time, and what helped them, and can we actually follow 100% what helped them to our current circumstances? Or is it possible that in 200 years, we have accumulated more knowledge and maybe, you know, it differently? And if we want to go deeper, like why we're here, who made us, what is the original diet? Do we believe in evolution? Do we believe in the Big Bang? Do we believe in UFOs and the Anunnakis? We're hybrids, you know? All of these things, I've been exploring all the rabbit holes. The Rabian community likes to go deeper in all of these subjects. At the end of the day, nobody knows. But what we know for sure is what can be measured. And what can be measured is things that have been studied. And I want you to not to be so averse to science. Again, people misuse science, but if you know a little bit, you're not gonna be misled. You're gonna detect who is telling the truth and who is not. And in 2025, all of us have access to ChatGPT and Google, and we can actually investigate. Some people say ChatGPT is programmed to tell us lies. You know, it's personal beliefs, I guess, or whatever you want to believe. You know, I'm not gonna convince you. Again, I just want you to give you a little bit more of my perspective, expand your horizon, and see if you resonate with it. If not, that's fine. You're getting enough protein. If you don't want to get muscular, I want to preserve my muscle mass. I want to do pull-ups, push-ups, and I want to be very vital and functional, knocking on the wood, at 80, 90 years old and beyond. So thank you so much, and that's my social media. So we have probably 10 minutes for questions. That person right there.
Hi.
Yes, hi.
So if you've been doing the less protein and you're now an older woman with osteopenia or osteoporosis, have you seen people reverse it? And
Yes.
is it by eating certain foods in addition to the resistance training, or what would you recommend?
So the first stimulus for protein muscle synthesis is exercise. So you need to start exercising consistently with progressive overload, and I recommend you to hire a personal trainer at least at the beginning so you learn technique and form so you don't injure yourself. And then once you find the exercise that work for you, sometimes going to the gym might look intimidating because people are buff and they look like experts. Everybody has a beginning, so there's just basic movements that we need to master. Once you master those, you can incorporate variations to that, but my recommendation for anyone who is trying to beat osteopenia, osteoporosis is at least 3 times per week. And if you are like into competitions and all of that, around like 5 times per week, but ideally to keep like a healthy bone density and muscle mass, no less than 3 times per week. And if you start seeing that other organs are suffering because you are not increasing your protein intake, then increase your protein intake.
Yeah.
Increase
with
it.
With what?
With your preferred source. I mean, some raw vegans don't want to go into the cooked world, right? I understand. I'm not here telling you that this is giving me, 100% energy that I had as a raw vegan. There's some compromises, right? I'm a little bit more, I take more time digesting food, things like that. But if you want to be raw vegan, maybe sprouting.
Yeah. In the glass bowl jars, can you do like mung beans in the glass jars?
The heaviest concentration of protein in sprouts is lentils. Mung beans is probably not so good. I mean, it has, but lentils have more. Chickpeas and garbanzo beans also have better protein content than lentils. And I invite you to open Chronometer and log in whatever food group that you consider incrementing, see if it's gonna give you more grams of protein. Yeah. And then I'll go back to you. Yes?
What about creatine supplements?
Yeah, creatine is a supplement that is, the studies have shown that helps you with muscle recovery and also with brain function. I take it, it's a powder, looks white, looks chemical, right? So, but I do it because I have a full-time job and I have to be sharp with my brain. So after working out in the morning, I go to work and I need to be focused. So no, I notice how my focus improved because I'm recovering from my workout and I'm also providing more. It's kind of like it's not like caffeine, but in a way it gives you artificial substrates for the ATP and the respiratory chain in the mitochondria and all of that. So I use it.
Was that just for recovery, or that's actual protein that would build muscle, right, as well?
It's not for building muscle.
Oh.
It's just for recovery. Creatine doesn't help with muscle growth. It helps with muscle recovery, and because you recover faster, you have more energy for future workouts. Yeah. Now, you.
I had a question about cataracts. So, like, say somebody's been like vegan for like a long time, been raw, been fruit, tried like different supplements and herbs, right? But then the doctor still says they still have cataracts, right? What would you recommend to like reverse that?
I don't know if somebody has reversed cataracts with diet, first of all. If there is a person who has done that, maybe ask that person because I don't know. Cataracts is basically accumulation of glycation and products in the tissue, in the lens inside the eye. So it looks more opaque, therefore the light kind of, it's just like this, right? A person with cataracts has something like that. Because the lens has some, I don't know, dirt in it. It looks more opaque. So some people claim that a raw vegan diet and juicing and all of that is gonna clean out that dirt in the lens. Again, ask the person who has done that, because I don't know. My medical training is like, just get a, like a surgery for cataracts, but I don't know. Yes.
What is your opinion about eating right for your blood type?
Yeah, that's another thing that is debatable. Some people say that white people, because they were living in the areas that are considered the land of the Neanderthals and all of that, right? They need probably more meat and things like that. Or some people from the tropics, especially type O, we need more meat. I honestly don't have an opinion on that. I think that we are designed to eat fruits. I don't think, when I say frugivores, right, because that's one of the arguments in this community, we are frugivores. If you analyze the definition of frugivores, that doesn't mean exclusively fruit. That means that it's mostly fruit, but not exclusively. So the frugivores in the animal kingdom, if you see documentaries, it's sad to realize that they're not vegan. So yeah, in terms of blood type, I don't think, if we trace back, the origins, if we believe that everybody originated from Africa, from a black descendant, right, and that person back in the years migrated to the north and they lost the melanin and all of that, that's a theory, right? But at the end of the day, I think it's what works for the person. I don't agree with the theory, but maybe a person who is like, you know what, I got better in introducing this type of food. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So you're saying,
So we have more 5 minutes. So if we don't finish, you can ask me after the dog. Yes, go ahead. The one with the cup.
so you're saying that you kind of, like, you were cool with being 100% raw, like, you felt like high energy,
Yeah,
you
for
felt
sure.
great health from it, and you do believe in all of that.
Oh, yeah,
But to an extent, it's like you're adding, let's say, whatever, 15% cooked whole plant foods to get the extra protein because you wanted to put on more weight for some health benefits, right?
Yeah.
But also for to like the mental of enjoying like the physical thing you're seeing in the mirror.
Both things. So first of all was like, I didn't like the skinny fat look. That prompted me to do resistance training exercise. I started with my hair loss problem. That prompted me to investigate all the benefits of protein and the functions in our body. And that made me realize osteopenia, osteoporosis. And if you put the two things together, if you don't have muscle mass, you don't have good bone density. So, for example, I don't know if you know Dr. Clapper, Michael Clapper.
Yes.
He just fell off his bike and fractured the hip. He's close to 80 years old. Maybe he's in his late 70s, early 80s, not sure. And he posted on Instagram, you know what, guys, I was cycling in Vancouver. I was coming to see this movie, and I fell off my bike. So if you consider the height of riding a bike, it's not too high. And I don't think Dr. Clapper was speeding. So he fell and he fractured his hip. Not criticize, you know what, we learn from everybody. As I said, in this timeline, are we practicing what these people were saying? Are we practicing what these people are saying in the 1800s? So I think we are at the crucial moment where more knowledge is coming, and we decide if we want to incorporate it or not. In me, it makes sense to preserve my muscle mass and bone density. So if I fall from my bike at 80, I don't fracture my hip. Yes.
I have a question regarding how do you incorporate adding more healthy fats and protein, but also trying to reverse certain symptoms? And the
Right.
reason I'm asking that is because I got really sick, and I healed a lot of my symptoms through the medical medium protocol. And he's very big on low fat.
Yes.
But I noticed that all of my muscle mass, I've been able to gain a few pounds back, but not where I was prior. But I healed a lot of symptoms. So as I was healing, I started adding in more healthy fats and some proteins, and I noticed the symptoms start coming back.
Yeah. So, what? Sorry, is it like an autoimmune condition?
Not really, but just a lot of different issues,
Yeah.
and they all started healing on his protocol.
Yeah. So again, this is not a recommendation for heal this condition or reverse this autoimmune condition. This is for somebody who is healthy, And introducing these food groups doesn't cause a lot of issues.
So you don't recommend that?
I don't if it causes you the issues. Maybe try different food groups, maybe incorporate more leafy greens, maybe more sprouts, things like that. So choose the source that doesn't damage your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question there. Dylan?
Yeah.
You.
Hey, doctor. Question for you. With body recomposition, okay?
Body, yeah?
Yeah, body recomposition. So if you're working with somebody and they're losing weight, they're losing fat at a particular rate, is there a point where you would say, oh, that's too fast? Like, what's a safe rate of fat loss that you would?
Yeah,
You know
so,
what I mean, that you would control?
yeah, if the person has the means to do a DEXA scan, go for it. They're usually below $100. So it's like a bed and a tube, and the scan, goes through your body, and it gives you the percentage of bone density, lean muscle mass, and fat, subcutaneous fat and visceral fat. So depending on the age of the person, if they're not at risk of osteoporosis or osteopenia, I know that people come to this lifestyle to lose the excess weight and reverse chronic conditions, which is totally acceptable and fine. But I'm talking in regards to people who constantly detox, constantly go into fasting, using, So with every cycle, as we get older, we are not only losing the fat, but we are also losing the muscle. So a DEXA scan will give you an idea how that person is doing in terms of the body composition. And if that person doesn't have enough resources, maybe going to a gym, although those things that you handle some type of, some handles at the gym and you step barefoot and all of that is less accurate than the DEXA scan. But I think, I hope everybody can afford like a $70, $80 scan.
So here we have a question.
Yeah.
Well, in researching on ChatGPT just now, it says that all essential amino acids are present in raw foods.
Yeah.
And fruits, leafy greens, sprouts, nuts, and seeds, everything have the same amino acids that are in cooked foods and beans and things like that.
Yeah.
Also, cooking, heat denatures the proteins, which means the body, it can't digest denatured proteins. So there are famous raw vegans who are bodybuilders, like Storm Telefera and Koya Webb.
Men, right?
Huh?
Men.
What's that?
Men.
But
Guys.
that's fine. But I mean, I'm postmenopausal. I lift weights, and to me, lifting weights and exercising, doing some type of cardio is essential in maintaining. When I eat cooked foods, I feel like crap. I get sick.
Yeah.
I just can't rationalize including cooked food.
No, my talk is not eat cooked food. My talk is increase your protein and you need to work out regardless if your sources are vegan or cooked. I do cook because it gives me more. And also, yes. And also, for my size, I cannot eat more calories because if I want to eat the same amount of grams of protein from, let's say, a fruitarian diet, I will have to increase my calories. And if I don't want to gain weight, I would have to exercise more. So for me, it's like I want to exercise normally, nothing extreme. And for that, if you use Chronometer and if you use ChatGPT, you can actually track what you eat and see how many calories you're eating, how many grams of protein you're getting. And then in the long run, if you just need certain amount of calories, just for the sake of sticking to fruitarianism, maybe you're gonna gain fat. So it's a very delicate balance. So what I do it is because I want to stay fit, I want to be in my weight, I want to have acceptable amount of body fat, but got good muscular mass and good performance as well, without the excessive calories. So for me, it's convenient keeping it high raw, and I keep it high raw in a way that it doesn't interfere with my performance, right? Because I agree, I felt 100% more energetic when I was 100% raw. But I can tolerate being 80% energetic when I incorporate my cooked vegan sources.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah. I also just wanted to say, because you had said that nobody knows the creation of the world. Some people know. I know that there's a God who created our world. So I just wanted to say that.
That's okay. Respectable. Yep. Thank you so much. If you have more questions, you can catch me outside.